All right, so we're going deep on cybersecurity today.
Yeah, a deep dive.
With an expert partner at Deloitte.
Xavi Gracia.
Xavi Gracia, yeah. He was at that Cyber Icon 2025 event in Madrid.
Yep.
Gave us some great insights, but we want to go even deeper.
Absolutely.
You know what stood out to me right away?
What's that?
Deloitte's cybersecurity team in Spain.
Huge.
17,000 professionals.
Yeah.
And 27 partners.
I mean, that's not even a team anymore. That's a whole army.
What does that tell us about the state of cybersecurity?
Well, I mean, clearly it's not some niche thing anymore, right?
Right.
Like this is a core function of any company.
For any organization.
Yeah, exactly. That relies on technology at all.
Especially these days.
Especially now. And this explosive growth, I think it means.
Yeah.
Experienced professionals, they're in super high demand.
Makes sense.
Which, gives them a lot of leverage.
Yeah.
To negotiate salaries, choose the projects they want.
Sure.
Even drive change in the industry.
So for someone listening right now, what does that mean for them?
Like whether they're already in cybersecurity or thinking about getting into it,
Yeah.
it means there's no better time.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you want job security or exciting challenges, the chance to make a real impact, it's all there.
So Gracia also talked about the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer.
Right.
It's evolving.
Yeah, it's not just tech anymore.
So he talked about it being like a C-suite level role.
Yeah, a leader.
What does that actually look like?
Well, Gracia really emphasized that CISOs need to understand the business inside and out. Not just protecting data anymore. They're actually enabling business growth.
Interesting.
Managing risk. Yeah, it's very strategic.
Okay.
It needs leadership, good communication, thinking ahead.
That's a far cry from the old image of the CISO.
In the basement, yeah.
Yeah, like the techie in the basement.
For sure. And this all ties into his point about the network perimeter.
Yeah.
He says it's gone.
There's no more.
Yeah, he used a great analogy.
What was that?
He said, the user's perimeter is the whole world now.
I love that.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
Yeah, because everything's connected.
Exactly, and the vulnerabilities are everywhere.
So if the perimeter's gone, how do we even approach security?
Well, that's where identity comes in.
Okay.
It becomes the first line of defense.
Right.
So verifying, controlling access to data.
Yeah.
That's crucial in this new landscape, making sure the right people have the right access.
Makes sense.
At the right time.
But how do you actually implement that?
Strong identity controls. It's definitely a challenge.
What are the biggest hurdles?
I think the biggest one's probably the organizational shift.
Okay.
It's not just about new software.
Right.
It's changing how everyone thinks about security.
Yeah.
You need buy-in from everyone, from the CEO all the way down.
Wow.
And of course, there are technical challenges too.
Of course.
Managing all these identities, all these devices, apps.
Across the cloud?
Yeah, across everything, it gets complex.
So Gracia also said something pretty bold.
What's that?
He said that cybersecurity can actually be a business enabler.
I like that.
Not just a cost center.
Right.
Explain that one.
Okay, so we have to stop thinking about security as just preventing bad things.
Okay.
When you do security well, it builds trust with your customers, your partners, your employees. And that trust can actually bring in more business.
Like how?
Increase sales, stronger partnerships, a more engaged workforce, all that.
So you're turning security into a competitive advantage.
Exactly.
Instead of an obstacle.
Yep. And this means CISOs need to be more business savvy.
I see.
They had to show the return on investment for security.
Okay, so there's a catch, right?
There is.
He talked about legacy in cybersecurity.
Right.
What does he mean by that?
Well, part of it is outdated tech.
Oh, okay.
But he also means a mindset that's stuck in the past.
Oh.
Clinging to old solutions that just don't work anymore. No. He's basically saying companies are just throwing money at the problem.
Without thinking it through.
Exactly.
So how do companies make sure their cybersecurity spending is actually making a difference?
That's a great question, and one we should definitely dig into.
Let's do it.
But first, I think we should look at Gracia's predictions for the future of cybersecurity.
All right, what's he seeing?
Well, he pointed to a few key trends that I think are going to be huge for our listeners.
Okay.
Like AI, automation, the Internet of Things.
IoT.
Yeah, and the impact of all these new regulations.
That's a lot to unpack.
It is.
But let's start with AI.
Okay.
I mean, it's everywhere these days.
It is, and Gracia seems really excited about its potential to really transform cybersecurity.
But how?
So how will that play out, in the real world?
Yeah, what does that actually look like?
He talked about AI systems that are always learning, Constantly adapting, identifying, and mitigating risks.
Before they happen.
Yeah, proactively.
Wow.
So it's not just about reacting anymore.
Right.
It's about actually predicting and preventing attacks.
That's a pretty big shift.
Huge. And that's where those skills we talked about before, innovation, strategic thinking, those become super important for CISOs.
Teams.
Yeah. They got to know how to use AI effectively.
To get ahead.
Exactly, to gain an edge.
But with all this AI talk, are we forgetting about the human element?
Oh, that's a good point.
Are we relying too much on technology?
I think that's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And Gracia emphasized this too.
Okay.
Even with all the advances in AI, cybersecurity still boils down to people.
At the end of the day?
Yeah. You need skilled professionals.
Right.
People who can interpret the data, make good decisions.
Respond to threats.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he actually used a really cool analogy for this new approach.
What was that?
He said it's less like building walls.
Oh, okay.
And more like training to be a boxer.
Training like a boxer? What does that even mean?
So basically, we need to shift our mindset from trying to prevent every single attack.
Right.
To being prepared to take a hit and keep fighting.
I like that.
Yeah, build that resilience into our systems and into our organizations.
So how do we train like a boxer in the cybersecurity world?
Well, it starts with knowing what's important.
Okay.
Your organization's critical assets and data.
The things you can't afford to lose.
Exactly. And then building in those redundancies.
Backups.
Yeah, backups. So if one system goes down.
You have a plan B?
Right, a plan B, maybe even a plan C.
So you're prepared.
Yeah. But it goes beyond just technology.
Okay. So
Gracia talked about simulations and rehearsals.
Okay.
Like wargaming, different attack scenarios.
So you can practice?
Exactly.
Got it.
Practice your response.
Yeah.
Find any weaknesses.
Makes sense. The more you practice, the better you'll be when it really happens.
Absolutely. But what about during an attack?
Yeah,
what kind of mindset do we need?
Right.
That's where that cyber culture comes in.
He keeps mentioning that.
It's crucial. It's about creating that sense of shared responsibility.
Okay.
Everyone gets it. Everyone understands how important security is.
So it's not just on the IT guys.
No, it's everyone's job.
Wow. So it's not just about the technology.
Right.
It's about having the right culture, the right training, the right people.
And even with all that, it still feels like we're playing catch up.
With the attackers, yeah.
So how do we get ahead?
That's the question.
Well, that's where innovation comes in.
Okay.
And Gracia thinks AI is going to be a huge driver of that.
Really?
Yeah. He sees it not just as a tool for the bad guys.
Right.
But as a powerful weapon for the good guys, too.
Interesting.
He talks about AI systems that can analyze huge amounts of data, identify patterns, predict threats.
Before they even happen.
Exactly. So we're moving from reactive to proactive security.
That's huge.
It is. But let's not forget about those other trends he mentioned.
Like the Internet of Things.
Yeah, IoT, that's adding a whole other layer of complexity.
For sure. I mean, we're connecting everything these days.
Our cars, refrigerators, medical devices.
It's like we're creating this giant attack surface.
Absolutely, and it's only going to get bigger.
So how do we even start to secure all of that?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And it's keeping a lot of security folks up at night.
I bet.
But Gracia sees it as an opportunity, too.
Okay.
He talked about security by design,
right?
Which means building security into devices and systems.
From the ground up.
Yeah, from the very beginning.
Not an afterthought.
Exactly. Make it an integral part of development.
So it's a totally different way of thinking about security.
It is. It's not just bolting on security measures later.
It's built in.
Baked into the DNA of everything we create.
That's a big change.
It is. But it's essential if we want a secure digital world.
Right, but it's not just about the technology.
No, we also need to think about the people.
Using it.
Building it, using it, yeah. And Gracia talks a lot about talent.
Attracting it, developing it, keeping it.
Yeah, but with such high demand, how do we make sure we have enough people?
That's a big problem.
It is, and Gracia doesn't shy away from it.
So what's the solution?
He talked about investing more in education and training.
Okay.
And creating really attractive career paths for these professionals.
Sure.
He also said we need more collaboration.
Between
industry, academia, and government.
To solve this talent shortage.
Exactly.
Sounds like a big challenge.
It is, but also a huge opportunity.
For anyone interested in cybersecurity.
Absolutely. There's never been a better time to get into it.
Okay, so we talked about AI, IoT. What about these new regulations?
Right. Gracia specifically mentioned the NIS2 directive.
Remind me what that is.
It's a European Union regulation to improve cybersecurity across critical sectors.
Like what kind of sectors?
Energy, transportation, healthcare, finance.
Big one.
Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive, sets out all these requirements.
Right.
Risk management, incident reporting, supply chain security.
Lots of
Yeah. And vulnerability disclosure.
So that's for European companies.
In those sectors, yeah.
Why should anyone else care?
Well, for a couple reasons.
Okay.
First, it shows that cybersecurity is more than just a tech issue.
That's a bigger deal.
It's about national security, economic security.
So governments are taking it seriously?
Yeah, all over the world, and we're probably going to see more regulations like this.
So it's a sign of what's to come.
Exactly. And second, even if you're not directly affected by NIS2, it's going to raise the bar for everyone.
How so?
As companies try to comply with these new rules,
yeah,
they're going to invest more in security technologies and best practices.
Which helps everyone.
Exactly. It's like a rising tide that lifts all boats.
I like that analogy.
And with all these trends, AI, IoT, new regulations.
That's a lot.
It feels like cybersecurity is about to change drastically.
Yeah, big transformation.
That's the feeling I got from Gracia, too. Huge challenges, but also incredible opportunities.
Yeah, but he also seemed to caution against getting too focused on the tech.
Right. Not losing sight of the human element.
He kept coming back to that cyber culture idea.
It's so big.
It's not enough to just have the best technology.
You need the right culture.
Yeah, and a sense of responsibility.
Absolutely. He talked about empowering everyone in the organization.
Well, it's part of the solution.
From the top down.
So you create this collective mindset.
Where security is just woven into how the organization works.
But how do you actually do that?
It's a big cultural shift. Well, there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Of course not.
But Gracia did talk about how Deloitte's approaching it.
Okay.
He mentioned their security by design philosophy. Their focus on developing those cyber skills.
Right.
And building a culture of trust and collaboration.
Those are some great principles.
They are, but they're still pretty high level.
So how can our listeners actually use this stuff?
Yeah. How do they apply it?
That's a great question.
And a perfect segue into the last part of our deep dive.
Okay, let's get into it.
Let's talk about some specific strategies and tactics
that
organizations can use to build a more secure future.
Okay, so let's break this down.
Right.
We've got security by design, cyber skills, that culture of trust. How do we actually make it happen?
So starting with security by design.
Yeah.
Gracia really stressed this.
Okay.
It's not about adding security features later.
Right.
It's about integrating security into every single step of the development lifecycle.
From the beginning.
Exactly. Involve those security pros from day one.
Not just calling them in at the end.
Yeah, not to clean up the mess.
So like building a house with the security system already there.
Exactly.
Not trying to add it on later.
Right. And it takes a change in mindset.
For sure.
Not just for the developers.
Everyone.
Yeah. The whole organization's security is everyone's job.
Okay, so what about that cyber skills gap?
Yeah, that's a big one.
How do we fix that?
Well, one way is to invest in training programs.
For current employees?
Right. Offer certifications, workshops, mentoring.
To help them stay up to date.
Exactly. Keep learning, keep those skills sharp.
So that's upskilling the people you already have.
But what about bringing in new talent?
Yeah. How do you attract new people?
Gracia said we got to make cybersecurity careers more appealing.
Especially to young people.
Right. Highlight the challenges, the opportunities.
Yeah, get exciting.
Yeah. Offer competitive salaries, clear career paths.
So it's not just a tech job.
It's about solving real-world problems.
Making a difference.
Exactly. Protecting critical infrastructure, people's lives.
All right. So security by design, cyber skills.
Yep.
Now that culture of trust and collaboration.
Right. That's key.
How do we build that?
Communication is huge.
Okay.
And transparency. Keep employees informed.
About threats, vulnerabilities.
Exactly. Train them on security best practices.
So they know what to do.
And create a culture where people feel safe reporting incidents.
Without getting in trouble.
Right. No fear of reprisal.
So everyone feels responsible.
It's exactly like it's their job, too.
But what about collaborating outside the organization?
Yeah, Gracia talked about that, too.
Working with partners, vendors.
Even competitors sometimes.
Really?
To tackle those shared challenges.
That's interesting.
It is. And that's where the cybersecurity ecosystem comes in.
What does that mean?
It means realizing that no one can do this alone.
We're all in this together.
Exactly. We got to share information, best practices.
Even resources.
To stay ahead of the game.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone.
Yeah.
If you want to go far, go together.
I love that. And this collaboration is especially important now with these new threats, AI-powered attacks, IoT security.
It's a lot to handle.
It is. And that's where innovation and adapting are so crucial.
We talked about that earlier.
We got to keep evolving our strategies, our technologies,
our mindsets,
everything to stay ahead of the curve.
Sounds like the future of cybersecurity is going to be pretty wild.
It is. It's a wild ride, but also exciting.
What a time to be in this field.
For sure it's challenging, but so rewarding.
And I think Gracia's given us a lot to think about.
A great roadmap for what's coming.
He has. So before we wrap up, remember that question we asked earlier?
What was it?
If you could ask Gracia one question about the future of cybersecurity.
That's a tough one.
What would it be?
You know what? I'd ask him for advice.
Okay.
For someone just starting out in cybersecurity.
Like what they should be learning.
Exactly. What skills to focus on, what opportunities to look for.
That's a great question. I'm sure our listeners would love to hear his answer.
Me too. But unfortunately, we're out of time for today.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
We have the evolving role of the CISO.
The rise of AI.
Building that resilient cyber culture.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
I agree, and I hope our listeners are walking away with a better understanding
of the challenges and the opportunities
in this ever-changing world of cybersecurity.
Me too. So to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive
into the future of cybersecurity.
We hope you found it insightful and empowering.
Absolutely. And remember, the best way to stay ahead
is to stay curious,
stay informed,
and stay engaged.
Until next time.
Stay safe.
And stay secure.